as the tradition as the traditional home of the Coast Salish and Duwamish people, the traditional home of all tribes and bands within the Suquamish, Tulalip, Snoqualmie, Puyallup, and Muckleshoot nations. Without them, we would not have access to this gathering or to this dialogue. I ask that we take this opportunity to thank the original caretakers of this land on which we live and work, who are still here. And as part of the 34th Dems' commitment to walking the walk, of taking action that goes beyond simply a verbal land acknowledgement, we are offering ways that you can take action with us by donating to organizations that benefit Indigenous communities in our district and across the country. Jordan has so kindly put this information on the screen, so you can check that out. I would ask that you please consider your donation to be a way to solidify your commitment to the advocacy of our Indigenous neighbors. So please feel free to make a one-time donation or a monthly donation to the National Urban Indian Family Coalition. They also work nationally as well as locally. So they are a far-reaching organization that does really, really good work. So thank you. Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks, Rachel. Up next, we'll go through our consent agenda. This includes adopting the minutes from our last membership meeting, which was June, as well as tonight's agenda. The minutes and the agenda were both shared in the last two weekly emails. So is there a motion to adopt the minutes from our June membership meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Bunny. Any objection to adopting the minutes? Any objection to adopting the minutes from the June membership meeting? Seeing none, we will consider the minutes adopted. And next is our agenda, which is on your screen. Is there a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved. Mike Parker.
Seconded, Preston Anderson.
Thank you, Preston. Any objection to adopting tonight's agenda? Any objection to adopting tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we will consider the agenda adopted. And next is our treasurer's report.
Hi, everybody. Rebecca Rago, 34th Dems treasurer here. Thank you, Jordan, for putting together this slide. This, it's summer, not a super active time for us, so not much to report, but I'll still walk you through all the details, and the more detailed treasurer's report is in the last newsletter. We had about $600 in new memberships come in. And we did have one big expense this month, which was paying for basically half a year of the software that we use to track donations and memberships called NGP. That was about $1,600. Otherwise, just the normal stuff, bank fees, Zoom, and we had a few generous in-kind donations, including candy for the parades we were at that members did not ask us to reimburse for, but are noted as both revenue and expenses. So we are still, it's not a lot in, not a lot out this month, but we're in a good financial position with $35,027 in the bank. That's it.
Thanks, Rebecca. I was looking through our participants list. I saw we have State Representative Joe Fitzgibbon in the meeting with us. Rep. Fitzgibbon, you want to say a word to the members?
Thanks, Jordan. And I appreciate it. I apologize for being off camera. I'm wrangling some small people, but I just wanted to thank 34th Dems for your support in the primary. I'm nearly at 75% of the vote, and I really just wanted to deeply thank you all for for your work in turning out the votes for Democratic candidates and in the primary, and let's keep going strong through the general. I think, as many folks know, this looks to be a good election year for Democrats in the legislature. On the primary night, we looked on track to, if those numbers held in the fall, pick up 5 Democratic House seats, which would be a huge step forward, get us pretty close to having the 2/3 supermajority that we would need to amend the Constitution in ways to protect reproductive freedom, to amend our congressional redistricting process, to make big progress on reforming the tax code. So a great election night. Thank you to everybody for all of your work in making that happen.
Thank you. Next, we have our campaign spotlight, and tonight we have with us Melissa, who's running the campaign for the Highline School District Bond and Tech Levy. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you. My name is Melissa Ebbison, and like he said, I am here representing Yes for Highline, and we are here to ask for any financial support and your endorsement for our upcoming bond and levy. The proposed bond would rebuild Highline's 3 aging middle schools, so every middle school student has access to a school that meets today's safety and learning standards. In addition to rebuilding Cascade, Chinook, and Sylvester, the bond would rebuild Southern Heights for Choice Academy, improve school safety and security, create career and technology education spaces, and make critical repairs to aging building systems such as roofs, heating, plumbing, and electrical. The proposed technology levy would continue funding for student and staff technology, cybersecurity, internet access, technology infrastructure, and district-wide systems that support teaching and learning. Every student deserves a safe, healthy school equipped with the technology students need to succeed today. Right now, we have some students learning in new modern buildings and other students learning in deteriorating schools that don't meet today's learning or safety standards. The proposed bond would replace aging schools, improve safety and security, and ensure all students have schools that support learning and success. Maintaining and improving schools protects previous community investments and provides the best value for taxpayer dollars by avoiding costly repairs and emergency fixes. Highline has a decades-long record of responsible planning and delivering new schools on time and on budget. And technology is an essential part of teaching, learning, communication, and school operations. Students and staff rely on devices, software, internet access, and secure technology systems every day. Investing in school facilities and technology is an investment in the future of Highline and the success of the next generation. And today we are asking for as much financial support as you possibly can offer and your endorsement in September. Thank you for helping us fulfill our Highline promise, which is that every student in Highline Public Schools is known by name, strength, and need, and graduates prepared for the future they choose. Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you, Melissa. I will try to find my screen again. And moving right along, as some of you, hopefully all of you, noticed in our emails these last couple of weeks, we have an opportunity to elect a new officer tonight. So one of our representatives to the King County Democratic Central Committee has stepped down, leaving a vacancy for us to fill. And per our bylaws, we have to make an attempt to elect somebody new to that position at the next membership meeting, following the date of the vacancy. So here we are. King County reps must attend our organization's monthly hybrid board meetings. Those are on the 3rd Wednesday of each month at 7 p.m., as well as the county party's monthly virtual board meetings on the 4th Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. This election is only for the remainder of our current term, which ends on November 30th. And apart from meetings, the only requirements is that the person does not identify as a woman and that they be an eligible voting member of the organization, PCO or not. The gender requirement comes to us from the state and county bylaws and charters, which require that we have two representatives of different genders going to the state to the county committee's executive board. And because Bunny Hatcher, our other King County representative, identifies as a woman, the person to fill this vacancy has to have a different gender identity. So is there anyone who would be willing to step into this role and then serve through the end of November? Is there anyone who would like to step into this role and serve the remainder of the term?
I'd be more than happy to, Jordan.
Thank you, Trent. Okay. Anyone else?
Excuse me, who is that?
That was Trent.
Do you need a last name, Steve?
No, that's cool.
Okay. Hearing no other candidates, we'll try this the easy way. Is there any objection to electing Trent as our new King County committee representative to serve through the remainder of the 25-26 term? Any objection? All right. Congratulations and thank you, Trent.
Thanks, guys.
Next, we're going to move into some resolutions. So over the last few weeks, emails also, I've been sharing links to resolutions that we're considering for adoption this evening. We'll go through these one at a time. The process is that we'll hear a summary of the resolution from the Resolutions and Endorsements Committee, open the floor to motions to adopt the resolution, and then there's an opportunity to amend. Whether or not there are amendments, once we get through that amendment process, we'll debate on the underlying resolution and take a final vote. If we vote to support the resolution gets posted on our website, and we share that back out to the authors so that they can forward on that support to anyone else that they're trying to get to approve it. If we do not, then the motion to adopt fails and we move on. So we'll just take these in order. Anne, are you going to be the one to present summaries?
I plan to. I wasn't sure what role you wanted to take, but I will take them in the order that they were presented in our agenda. The first resolution, which has a do pass recommendation from the board, is a resolution calling for freezing the U.S. military budget. The current 2026 budget was $901 billion. There has been an effort to increase it to 1.5 trillion for 2027. This resolution says that the 34th District Democratic Organization calls on Congress to immediately freeze the United States military budget at the 2026 level. It says that we oppose, or we call on our congressional delegation to oppose any increase in the military budget. So that is the essence of the resolution.
Thank you. So is there a motion to adopt this resolution supporting cutting the U.S. military budget? Rachel, I see your hands up.
Yes. Do we have Anne, is Anne able to entertain questions, or is that not appropriate?
Sure.
So I have a question, Anne, and it may already be written into the resolution, but is this freeze just going to be in effect for this year? For the session of the Congress when they propose what the budgets are, or is this forever?
This only speaks to 2027. In the resolution itself, it says that the budget should be held at the 2026 level.
Okay. Thank you.
I will second Rachel's motion.
Oh.
Rachel, you had a question, right?
Yeah, I just had a question. I didn't make the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I will make the motion to adopt the resolution. Sorry about that.
No, it's good. All good.
I second Gail Summers.
What, Ann?
What was that, Gail?
Sorry, Gail Summers, I second.
Okay, thank you, Gail. Bunny, since the motion is yours, would you like to speak to it?
Sure. Since as a member of the resolutions committee, we worked our way through this resolution, which originally was calling for cuts, but this one merely asks for a freeze, and certainly $901 billion is not an unreasonable amount, unless you have a president who wants to use up all of our munitions bombing other people's children over in the Middle East. This was in response also to the president's request to increase that budget by almost 60% for the next year. And we felt that that was unreasonable. And so we have called on Congress to freeze that budget. And I don't know what more to say about it. It seemed like an eminently supportable thing to me that, as I said, if he can't make do with 900 billion, maybe he needs to find a cheaper suppliers of bombs. I yield the rest of my time.
Is there a speaker against adopting the resolution? Any speaker against adopting the resolution? Okay, then we'll end debate. Is there anyone who would like to amend the resolution as it's been presented? Any amendments? Okay, is there any objection to adopting the resolution? Is there any objection to adopting the resolution? Okay, hearing none, we'll consider the resolution adopted. And on to our next one.
The next resolution is also coming with a due pass recommendation from the board. It is a resolution calling for reenactment of a strong Voting Rights Act. This is in response to the actions that the Supreme Court has taken, negating important parts of the existing Voting Rights Act. And it is calling for our congressional representation, both in the House and Senate, to put forward legislation that would reinstate sections of the Voting Rights Act. And it says that we, the 34th District Democrats, will work within our home district to see that the pillars of the Voting Rights Act are guarded and that underrepresented communities are fully part of the party. I would move this resolution because I authored it.
Thanks, Ann. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, Ann, the motion's yours. Would you like to speak to it?
That was Rachel?
Yes.
Yes, it was Ann and Rachel.
Thank you, Steve.
I feel that it is important for us as a democratic organization to recognize how important the Voting Rights Act has been to underrepresented communities around the nation, and that I just feel very strongly that this is an action that, well, it's a no-brainer. I put it forward because it's a no-brainer. It was originally passed to the state as one of the resolutions this district put forward for the convention. There was objection to a portion that talked about redistricting, and the resolutions committee felt that that was not something they wanted to see restricted in this state. So they sent it back to us, and we're sending it back, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Is there a speaker against adopting the resolution? Any speaker against adopting the resolution? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to amend the resolution?
Do we, hello, I was just wondering, do we want to call out the specific elements of the Voting Rights Act that we want to adhere to? Is it blanket everything that was in the 65 Act, or is it specific items?
Anne, as the author, do you want to speak to the question?
This is aimed at restoring parts of the law that relate to minority districts, and the specifics of the, sorry, I was moving on to the next one. The parts that relate to increasing access and protecting the franchise of persons who have been historically denied access to the ballot. And the Supreme Court has held that there isn't discrimination in voting anymore, so it's not a problem. And those are the parts that I was thinking about when I wrote this. However, there may be other portions that have been used that need to be reinstated in a new, strong Voting Rights Act. Making it better would not be a problem.
Right. I was most specifically interested in your thoughts on pre-clearance, like reinstating pre-clearance, which was part of the Voting Rights Act that has been, you know, invalidated, which is that notion that Southern states need to go through a specific pre-clearance. Former Confederate states need to go through a specific review process as part of any changes they wish to make to the voting practices within their states. Is that something that we are aiming to reinstate?
My feeling would be, and it doesn't say that isn't, but my personal feeling would be that if we are reenacting the Voting Rights Act as a strong Voting Rights Act, that we would do the things necessary to make sure that underrepresented communities and individuals are in fact given strong protections by the Voting Rights Act.
All right, thank you.
Is there any objection to adopting the resolution? Any objection to adopting the resolution? Seeing and hearing none, we will also consider this one adopted and move on to our third and final.
All right, the third resolution, there is not a recommendation coming out of the board. There were various opinions on this particular resolution. It is quite complex. I don't know that Roxanne is here, but
I'm here to support the motion or the resolution.
Okay, so Preston.
On
Okay,
behalf of Roxanne.
that's thanks, Preston. I will read the therefore be it resolved sections in their entirety because, as I say, this is fairly complex. It is aimed at stopping public subsidies for Amazon-backed nuclear development on tribal treaty and public lands. Therefore, be it resolved, the 34th District Democrats call on the legislature, governor, state agencies, local governments, and Energy Northwest to halt and reject any public financing, tax breaks, cost recovery, public land transfers, lease expansions, easements, or other public subsidies for new nuclear and small modular nuclear reactor development. Therefore, be it further resolved, no proposed nuclear or SMNR, that's the small modular nuclear reactor project, receive any future public support, and that tribal consultation and consent be obtained for any action affecting Hanford tribal treaty rights, ceded lands, cultural resources, water resources, salmon recovery, or Hanford cleanup priorities. Therefore, be it finally resolved, the 34th District Democrats will support legislation and budget action that prioritizes faster, lower cost, lower risk, clean, renewable energy investments, including energy efficiency, transmission, storage, wind, solar, geothermal energy, and enhanced geothermal systems, with a preference for projects that create lasting Washington jobs and direct public benefit. And this was submitted by Roxanne Thayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
This is Preston Anderson. I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution. And then I would just also add, this is information that Roxanne passed on to me. The San Juan Democrats and the Progressive Caucus passed this resolution recently.
Thank you, Preston. Is there a second?
Mike Parker, seconds.
All right, Preston, the motion is yours. Feel free to speak to it.
This is an area of expertise that I think Roxanne exclusively kind of dominates in. This is something that I'm not too familiar with. However, I do recognize and acknowledge the concerns that she's brought up pretty consistently since I've been a part of this organization from 2021. And then I would also add that in reading that resolution, if folks had a chance to read through it, and again, it is lengthy, there is discussion about the Georgia nuclear power plant and the debacle there. And when I was living in South Carolina, 2019, similar situation with the nuclear reactors there in South Carolina, cost overruns and increased utility expenses for the local population. But I definitely encourage folks to read through the resolution. But I also going to solicit your support for this resolution as well during this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Preston. Is there a speaker against the resolution? Any speaker against the resolution? Seeing none, we will end debate. Is there anyone who would like to amend the resolution? Any amendments? Okay, is there anyone who would object to adopting the resolution? Any objections? Pat?
Yeah, this is not an objection exactly. Are the tribes on board with this?
I am not sure. I can't
Not
speak to
for
that.
that. But I suspect that Roxanne would have not included that verbiage unless she had some kind of dialogue with the local tribes. So I'm assuming that they're aware of kind of the effect of this resolution. But I would definitely have you reach out directly to Roxanne.
I would add that in our discussion of this, Roxanne did indicate that there were discussions with the tribes. That was an item of discussion in the committee.
Yeah, there's a note in the resolution citing, it says Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakima Nation and Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation.
Yeah.
She said written letters upon request, and there's a link to something in the Washington State Standard showing that at least those two tribes were urging the governor to veto a $25 million nuclear power project. But I can't speak to tribes that aren't affiliated with that.
This is Hannah Cameron. I'm chiming in on under Jordan's thoughts since I'm in the same room as him. I am a member of this committee. So what I can share, Pat, is that when Roxanne was talking about this resolution, she did indicate that she has spoken to like some folks, but she did not like. We don't have like there is widespread backing, and the requests about nuclear very specifically were tied to the Amazon backed project out at Hanford, whereas this resolution is generalized to all small modular nuclear reactor projects and not just the one that is receiving pushback out on Hanford.
Okay, yeah, I don't have the text in front of me, but I thought there was a line in there that said no development on tribal lands or something like that. Did I mishear that?
I've got, and I'm hoping it's the correct draft in front of me where it is pretty specific, the resolution about the Cascade Advanced Energy Facility near Richland, and refers to the footnotes or the supporting documentation. It talks about the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation and also the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So
the resolution specifically says, it says, therefore, be it further resolved, no proposed nuclear or small modular nuclear reactor project receive any future public support, and that tribal consultation and consent be obtained for any action affecting Hanford, tribal treaty rights, ceded lands, cultural resources, water resources, salmon recovery, or Hanford cleanup priorities. So,
thank you, Jordan.
Yeah,
that's the language. That's the right language. Thanks.
Okay, last call for any objections to adopting the resolution. Okay, hearing none, we will also consider this one adopted. Thank you, everybody. Next, I'm going to walk us through an election recap for the results that we have so far. So actually today is what's considered the mid-election point. It's about halfway between election day and when the election is certified. So it's a kind of a benchmark point for anyone like me who's a data nerd and likes to go check on these things just about every day. So for the primary turnout so far, turnout in our district compared to 2022 is down about 1.4 points. We still outperformed county-wide turnout, which is something that we are regularly doing. And this year widened the gap between us and the county to 3.5 points, up from 2.8 in 2022. but not quite the 4.3 of 2028. One problem is that turnout varied widely across precincts and age groups, coming in extremely low, as is typical for younger voters. Interestingly enough, though, the timing of ballot returns was essentially identical to 2022, which I'll show in a little bit. For our district, as we talked about in the past with previous election, Anne, yeah, sorry, hands up. What's that?
On the previous chart, are the
Yes.
blue lines our returns and the green the county returns? There's no key.
Yeah, the blue is us, green is countywide.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. Thanks.
For our district, as we talked about with past election results, there's always a difference geographically between the east and west parts of non-Vashon precincts, with precincts east of 35th Avenue tending to have lower turnout than those west of 35th. The areas that are higher income areas with generally fewer language barriers and closer in proximity to the ballot boxes tend to have higher turnout. What was strange to see, though, was a pocket of extremely low turnout precincts in the Alaska Junction in West Seattle. Typically, the Alaska Junction has moderate to high turnout. But three precincts in particular, which are highlighted on the slide here, stood out not only because they're adjacent to each other and had low turnout, but because that low turnout between those three precincts averaged 10%, ranging from just shy of 7.5% to just over 12%. These are areas that are made up exclusively of apartments, pretty much. So heading into the general, I'd love to see us identifying some building captains in the vicinity of the Alaska Junction and encouraging them to help boost turnout there. What's also strange is that the Alaska Junction ballot drop box is one of the highest used ones in the city. So the fact that it's a highly used drop box, but the people who live close to it aren't using it is bizarre. We'll also continue to emphasize turnout in the historically low turnout areas. So east of 35th, especially down in South Park, White Center, Burien, and helping endorsed candidates and their other supporting organizations target key areas throughout the district. This is something that we did with a lot of really strong success last year. So we're looking forward to bringing that into 2026 and making sure that our endorsed candidates for the general win, and by as wide a margins as possible. When we look at turnout by age, as I said, familiar story. Turnout for voters 55 plus outperformed the district average. That's 55 plus. And just 1 in 4 voters under 35, so that 18 to 34 range, actually turned out to vote. So that's another thing that I want to try to boost going to the general. 1 in 4 is ridiculous. More people under 35 need to be voting. As someone who is in that range, it's embarrassing. For ballot returns, starting at the beginning of the 18-day voting window, it was cool to see how closely the ballot returns this year followed the pattern of 2022. So you see kind of shallow spikes right around that 14-day period down to 10 to 11 days prior to election day. That's right when drop boxes open. So everybody who had mailed in their ballot before the period started and those got collected, you see that first peak. And then about a week before election day, you see it peak again. Then right at election day, you see that huge spike in ballot returns. And then things trail off pretty quickly. The cumulative ballots counted by day, you can see that we get the plurality of ballots by election day. So it's votes still trickle in afterward, but it only amounts to, in most cases, really minor changes and no real shifting of who's going to the general election, except in rare cases. With usually where we have a lot of competitive Democrats in a race, you'll see some people pulling votes from each other. We saw that happen with the statewide election for the Commissioner of Public Lands, where statewide we were in double digits for not having a Democrat in the general election. So stuff like that can affect outcomes, but for the most part, it's once we get through election day, we kind of know what the general is going to look like. one thing that I will note is that while turnout was lower this year compared to 2022, 2018, our actual ballot count is currently before we get to the final tally within 100 ballots of the final 2022 count. So the lower turnout this year had more to do with the fact that we added over 3,500 voters, registered voters, between 2022 and 2026 than it had to do with the number of people voting. Lastly, for the candidates that we endorsed, their median vote share on election night was just over 65%, almost 66%. And they've gained ground heading into the 4 p.m. drop today. So now we're above 67%, almost 67.5%. But we'll be keeping a close eye on how the next week goes because there is one race in particular where a candidate we endorsed is not, as of right now, not going to the general election. So that can affect our endorsement meeting next month. How these final results actually are, we won't know for certain until we get into the middle of next week. So I'll keep everybody updated in my weekly emails so that everybody knows what endorsements are up for consideration in September. But that's where we stand with the primary elections so far. And for the rest of the year, so our year, Jenny, I see your comment in the chat. I hadn't planned on making them visible anywhere else, but I can. I can take those slides and put them in our next weekly email. I will make a note of that myself right now. For September, October, and November, that for us is the rest of our year for the 2025-26 term. And that's because our PCO term ends on November 30th and December 1st starts the reorganization process for the party. So after today, we have September, October, November, and then this term of the organization is done. So September 9th is our next meeting. We'll be doing our general election endorsements. That will be the bulk, if not all of that meeting. When we get to October, I'm trying to bring in other party leaders from the city of Seattle, from the region, from the state, to do a deep dive on reorganization so that folks have a really clear understanding of what to expect as we head into that process. Sometimes like 99% of it happens behind the scenes and people don't really know what's going on until we're right in it in January. But I want to make sure that as we transition into the 27-28 term, folks are really aware of what's going on. We'll get into general election, getting out the vote efforts, starting in mid-October, heading through into the general election on November 3rd. There will be plenty of parties, I'm sure, on election day. And then the next thing for us is our holiday party and awards ceremony at our November meeting, which this year is on Veterans Day, November 11th. We'll also be continuing with our pop-up socials through the end of the year. They stop being on the last Friday once we get into holiday season. So November, December, the dates fluctuate a little bit, but they're all available on our calendar on our website at 34dems.org. So make sure you're keeping track of those things. And next, I'm going to just really briefly talk about what reorganization is, who's involved, what we end up with at the end of it. I really want folks to seize the opportunity to take on leadership roles in this organization, as well as at the county and state level. Showing up and stepping into these positions is one of the best ways that you can affect change in the Democratic Party and actually turn the party into what we know it needs to become. So that all starts with electing new precinct committee officers. So with the primary election, any competitive precinct committee officer races were decided in the primary. So we've officially now elected all of the PCOs that will be involved in the reorganization for the next term. And the next steps of this process start with the beginning of that new term on December 1st of this year. So going from November 30th to January 13th, the PCOs elected in our district elected the officers of both our district and the county party organization. So as a PCO, as an elected PCO, you get to decide who's leading your Democratic Party at the most local level, which is why over the first 7 months of this year, we were really pushing people, be a PCO, be a PCO. That's how you affect change at the local level for the Democratic Party. And then by the end of January, the folks that we elect to represent us, so we have, like we just elected Trent to be our representative to the county committee. The state committee also has representatives from each legislative district. And the state committee elects their officers. So our organization, as well as every LD across the state of Washington, has a voice in who the officers of the state Democratic Party are. So by being a PCO, directly or indirectly, you affect the party structure from the state level all the way down to your precinct. This year, what's going into January, what's different is that there's no DNC elections. Those are on 4-year cycles. So the next round of that will be ducking down 2021. So we have a page on our website that really goes into detail on this, 34dems.org/dems101. And you can see it on the tabs from the homepage, and you can see this graphic, you can read all about the process, the importance of being a PCO, the importance of stepping into these leadership roles, especially being officers. And the officer positions for the organization start with the district chair. So if anybody has their eyes on being the chair in the next term, this is the opportunity. District chair, vice chair, that's first and second vice chair. State party committee representatives, we elect 2 of 2 different genders. Same thing for the county party committee. We elect 2 representatives. We also elect 2 alternates, also of different genders. And then the final 2 officers are secretary and treasurer. For the district chair, all the way to the county party committee alternates, only precinct committee officers vote on them. So again, being a PCO, you get to directly decide who gets to lead this organization. And then for secretary and treasurer, all eligible voting members get to vote on those 2 positions. You do have to be a voting member to run, but not necessarily a PCO. So even though it's a PCO only vote for most of these, you don't have to be a PCO to hold the position. For everybody who's not a PCO to become a member, we'll be opening up the 2027, 2028, or 2027 membership form in mid-December. And by joining as a member, apart from being a PCO, that's how you get to participate in electing the secretary and treasurer. Also, one of the perks of being the district chair is you get to appoint the committee chairs to our standing committees. Those would then go on to be confirmed by the membership more broadly. But by stepping into a role like that, you get to have a little bit more control over how the organization moves forward and what our future looks like. The last thing, though, is we really don't want to wait until reorganization to start thinking ahead about that future for the organization. If we show up on the second Wednesday of January and we have nobody lined up for these positions, it can get messy. So we've done some incredible work over the last 20 months, and we want to start preparing the next cohort of leaders in the organization to take the reins and carry that progress forward. And that starts with electing the officers, but even before that, making sure that we have folks who are interested in leadership positions, making it known that they're ready to step up and take those on. So if you're interested in taking on any of these roles, you can let me know. I'll be keeping track of the names that come to me. You can read, if you want to read more, you can read more about all these board positions in our executive rules, which are also available on our website under the governing documents. That is kind of the gist of that. As I said, I'm going to try to get folks from other levels of the party into our October meeting to go more in depth on this. But between now and then, or does anybody have any questions? Any questions? All right. Oh, Anne, go ahead.
I just was wondering when it was that if somebody wanted to be appointed a PCO, that they could be appointed.
We can appoint for this term or for the next term?
For the next term.
The next term we can appoint starting in January.
After the election of a chair?
Yeah, once we get through, like once we have a new district chair, we can do all of the business of the organization.
In case somebody doesn't know that, that's why I wanted to, yeah.
And Jordan, what is the voting difference between elected PCOs and appointed PCOs in terms of voting rights?
They're virtually identical. The two big differences are if there's ever a point in time where, like at the beginning of 2025, we appoint folks to fill vacancies in the legislature. That's elected PCOs only. Also, if we're ever electing officers, whether it's during a reorganization meeting or not, those are always PCO only votes. And then I think amendments to our bylaws. I think our PCO, they might be all members.
All PCOs are just elected. Because there are just a couple of little quirks there.
It's definitely legislative appointments and electing officers are PCO only. There may be one other thing, but those are definitely the two big ones. Appointed PCOs otherwise have the same voting privileges as elected PCOs. Any other questions before we move on?
Yeah, Jordan, I have a question. I mean, I know the answer, but I'm thinking that I'll just ask it so that you can answer it. And then if folks who are interested possibly or just thinking about it, this is just extra information that can help you. How many precincts are there in our district? And if you know that off the top of your head, but what I'm asking is about how many precincts are available for filling and how many need to be filled, and that sort of thing, that if nobody is running against you, you can be appointed, which is a very easy process as opposed to like going through an election. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Sorry, my brain was stuck on the how many precincts question. The second part of that was what?
Well, just the idea of that if there isn't anybody currently in your precinct as a PCO, you can virtually just get appointed. You don't have to do a big pitch to say, I want to be the PCO of this and run a campaign. You can just say, we'll say you're in, because there are a lot of precincts that are available without a current PCO in them.
Yes, and adding to that, even if your precinct does have a PCO, we have plenty of precincts that don't. And you can actually be appointed to serve as the PCO for a precinct you don't live in. So you can, you're technically called the precinct coordinator, so it's a different title, but you still get to do the work of being a PCO and organizing voters in a precinct. It's just not for the one in which you live. And to answer your question on how many precincts we have, 223. The vast majority of those are in Seattle. We have, I think it's 167 in Seattle. And then we have—
Is that West Seattle?
All of Seattle. So because we go up into like Pioneer Square downtown, and then we have like Soto and the stadiums in Georgetown. So yeah, it's 167 precincts in the city of Seattle. And then White Center is our next highest with 20, with Vashon at 19. And then Burien has 17. So altogether 223. And right now, for the 25-26 term, we had 84 elected PCOs. And then we appointed 25, so far 25 additional people to serve in precincts that they did or didn't live in. And then I think maybe since then we've had one person who moved out of district, so we might have dropped one. So Rebecca's got the number out of 113 vacancies right now.
There we go. Thanks, Jordan.
And just to clarify, if you are serving in a precinct that you don't live in, does that mean you do not have voting privileges?
You still have the voting privileges of an appointed PCO. But yeah, there's virtually no difference between an appointed PCO and precinct coordinator other than the fact that you don't live in the precinct you organize.
Good to know. Thank you.
Steve?
Yes, can any, do you need to be a PCO to run for any of the offices that would be coming up next year, or is being a PCO a requirement to be like a county committee person or a state committee person, or?
No, any voting member can be an officer or a standing committee chair in the organization. The only reason that we have the general voting member requirement is because it'd be pretty weird for you to be on the board and not be able to vote. So
right, that's what I thought. I just wanted.
Yeah, yes. Any eligible voting member can be an officer or a standing committee chair. Ted?
Yeah, a couple things have just been stated in this discussion, Jordan, that don't seem to jive with what my understanding is. First, anyone that we were to appoint as a PCO, in this meeting or the next meeting, they would only be PCOs until the reorg, is my understanding.
Yeah.
And so really the only PCOs that will be able to vote in the reorg are the ones that were elected at the midterm. There will be no appointed PCOs participating in these elections because the organization does not exist to appoint PCOs until after these elections. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're right.
Okay.
Ted,
yeah,
that was
no,
the point of my question.
Okay. And
Yeah.
the other point, go ahead, please.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, I don't believe that the acting PCOs that are been appointed to serve the function of a PCO for districts they don't live in, I didn't think they had voting rights of appointed PCOs. Am I wrong on that?
I thought so too.
There's check our bylaws with it.
Okay. Well, I don't think this would be our bylaws that would cover this. I think it would be the state and the county, wouldn't it?
I think we have something in our bylaws.
I can speak to that. So in Article 3, membership, Section 1, Section 1.1, we talk about PCOs. We also define PCOs as elected or appointed. And then we go on to just specifically use PCO throughout the remainder, I believe.
But Ted, you were specifically asking about if you're a PCO in a precinct that you do not live in, that means you don't get voting rights. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, and what the part of our bylaw that Hannah just read there, I don't think that's our call. I think we're subject to the rules set aside not only by state party, but I think they're part of actual laws. I'm not sure about that. I could be wrong. It doesn't
I'm
sound right.
continuing to read down further with the help of Control Find. uh, it goes on to say in Article 4 that so voting for officers um yeah, only elected PCOs, but can vote for officers. But at that point, we don't even have any appointed PCOs.
Well, that's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's things that are restricted to elected PCO only votes, but besides those few things, I don't think there's any difference.
Yeah. So the further down, it says, while elected PCOs have universal voting rights within the organization, other voting members, which would include appointed PCOs, are not allowed to vote on certain matters. And then it specifies appointed PCOs may not vote on officer elections with the exception of secretary or treasurer. So appointed PCOs never get to vote for officers, whether it is at reorganization because they don't exist, or at any later point, even if they do exist.
Because I think the issue would come up if a PCO, a person is sort of covering a precinct that is not where they live, and if they had a challenger to run against them, they could not be on the ballot if it's not their own precinct. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's where Ted is talking about with the law.
If you're a precinct coordinator and someone steps up that lives in that precinct, then that person gets elected or appointed and you move off.
Yeah.
Teresa?
My question has to do with finding out what our precinct turnout has been for the primary or eventually the general election. How do we find that out?
The precinct level turnout?
Yes.
You can actually right now, if you go to King County election results for the primary, you can see election night precinct level results. We won't get to see the final result until after the election is certified, but you can see specifically election night precinct turnout right now. If you just Google King County election results 2026 and click through the year of 2026 August primary, it'll get you to the link.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. I will just plug again that if you're thinking about running for one of the officer positions, even one of the committee chair positions, please let me know as soon as possible. We can actually connect you with the people doing that work already, and they can start kind of coaching you in the process of how to do the work. So the sooner the better. And then we can work toward reorg. Yeah.
I have a question. Let's say you're interested in something, but someone already holds that position. Do you think it's okay to speak up? And do you think anyone on the board would have their toes stepped on? Because I wouldn't if someone was interested in my committee or my position, but I'm just asking so we can put it on the record. And are you planning on running for chair, or should someone else try and step up and fill that role?
I'll speak for myself and say that my toes will not be stepped on if you decide that you want to run for the position. I am not planning to run for chair in the new term. So if you would like to run for chair, please let me know. I can start coaching you on all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and catch you up and make you familiar with anything that you are not familiar with. If you want to run for any of the other board seats, nobody is owed a position. Surprise, surprise. Nobody has these positions by birthright. So if you want to run for the position, I encourage you to run for the position. Challenging elections are fun for me. So if you want to go for it, go for it. Ted, yeah.
I was just going to basically say what you say. This is a democracy. Run for anything you want to do. Run, and you can put forward your case as your opponent might too, and we'll decide. That's what it's all about.
And for anyone who is interested in running for chair, I will tell you without any doubt that you will get the best possible training you could ask for from Jordan Crawley. I mean, I could not even, like, you will be so well informed and prepped up and taken care of that, I mean, I wouldn't want anyone who's considering running for chair to feel intimidated about what they would be coming into. And you would get such a fantastic tutorial training, whatever you want to call it, from Jordan.
Thanks, Rachel. Before we close out, please consider donating to support our work. We have a lot to get done over the next few months. It might seem like we're through the primary, so really all we have to focus on in the general, but there's a ton going on over the next few months. And every single dollar helps us stretch our effort to that much further in supporting civic leaders, promoting public policy, and inspiring civic action. Your contributions really are what drive the work, what support everything that we do, including all of our outreach efforts, all of our voter engagement, the coalition building. We've heard from a lot of our coalition partners over the last 20 months, and campaign support, which is going to be a big deal over the next couple months. You can scan the QR code, and that'll take you to a contribution form. You can also go to 34dems.org/contribute. Over the next month, we have quite a few opportunities, which I talk a lot about in our weekly emails, but I've highlighted several here. You can join Common Power as they build up to voter engagement down in Congressional District 3 to re-elect Marie Glusenkamp Perez. You can jump on a call with us and Field Team 6 to talk about recruiting and activating Democrats using grassroots organizing strategies. You can head to the Morgan Junction on August 28th to hang out with us at the bridge, starting at 5:30. And then on September 10th, State Treasurer Mike Coliciotti is doing his annual fundraising lunch at the Seattle Convention Center. He's generously offered us a discounted ticket. The link for that was sent out in our last weekly email, and I'll be sending it out every week moving forward. Those are just 4 things that I could fit on a slide that are coming up over the next month or two. So before we close out the evening, if anyone has anything for good of the order, feel free to make your announcements, and I will go on mute.
I guess we're talking.
Yeah, go ahead. Anybody who's, yeah, and your hand was up first.
Yeah. The West Seattle Democratic women will have their pizza potluck and politics picnic. Say that 5 times fast. On August 27th, that's a Thursday, from 4 to 7 at my house at 3618 Southwest Orchard. RSVPs are not required, but we appreciate them because that way we can have enough pizza. My email, I will put it in the chat, but it's martinhtam@gmail.com. Bring a salad or dessert or whatever. It's a potluck, and pizza and drinks will be provided. Thank you. Hope to see you on Thursday, August 27th.
Hi everybody. I'm giving a heads up now for an event that is hosted by the 34th that I organized last year, and we're doing it again this year because it was so successful last year. This event is called Bend It Like Booker, and it's the inspiration came from Senator Cory Booker's 25-hour marathon filibuster speech last year. The event is going to be 25 consecutive hours. I have been talking to speakers, presenters, performers. We are going to have a fantastic roster of speakers. I would love you all to come. The best way to make this event a success is for you to come, and you can come in person to the event. There are, Jordan, if you have the link that you can put in the chat, I don't happen to have it on me, but you can come in person. You can stay as long as you want. Where the event starts at 10 o'clock on September 12th and goes consecutively straight through to 11:15 a.m. on Sunday, September 13th. So for anyone who's up for a gonzo adventure, to stay up all night with us, you are more than welcome. If you would rather watch from the comfort of your own home, we are live streaming the entire event. And so you can get a live stream access ticket to allow you to watch, or you could do both. We have full access passes as well. So there's a ticketing link. Jordan has it in the chat. Please come. The best way to have success in this event is if you are there. So we look forward to seeing all of you. Tell your friends, bring a couple friends with you. It's going to be a party. We're going to have music, just all kinds of cool stuff. Spoken word poetry, just all members of all corners of our community are going to come and just speak it out and help hold it up for 25 hours. So we'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Preston, go ahead.
I just wanted to read a quick definition and kind of give you the reason why I'm reading the definition. It's a definition on groupthink. There's a lot of intelligent people here. I suspect that you already know what groupthink is about. But the definition is groupthink is a psychological phenomenon where a group of people make flawed or irrational decisions because they value harmony and conformity over critical thinking. I say that if you see my screensaver for the Zoom call when I'm off camera, it's a photo of me at the South Carolina State Legislature holding up a sign saying unrig the system. South Carolina State Legislature is a supermajority of Republicans. When we're talking about a supermajority earlier, and that just makes me very uneasy with the idea that, irrespective of whether you identify as Democrat, whether you identify as progressive, whatever, having a supermajority is something that maybe ultimately could possibly not be a good thing. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I think a lot of people that I speak to are all enthusiastic about it and don't necessarily talk about the potential consequences. I would say maybe a potential consequence would be analogous to the hysteria during COVID and the Black Lives Matter when we had elected officials talking about defund the police or doing other sorts of questionable policymaking. And lastly, I would say, given the track record of a lot of our policymakers on the return of investment on products, whether it's related to behavioral health, whether it's homelessness, whether it's children learning in schools, that too has been abysmal. So I'm really uneasy about the idea of having a supermajority. And lastly, I would say a lot of when I was on the board for Fair Vote Washington, a lot of prominent Democrats in the state legislature were opposed to advancing ranked choice voting throughout the state. And I suspect it might be for reasons to retain power and control power. So just a little something to think about. That's all.
Thanks, Preston. Teresa, go ahead.
I'm just wanting to do a shout out to the Fauntleroy Community Association for conducting a meeting last night, organizing it, and having a good representation from the community about bike safety in our neighborhoods around the ferry terminal, but also in all of West Seattle. And we did have a good turnout. We had a great panel of people from the ferries, the Department of Transportation in Seattle, the mayor's office, Rob Saka and his assistant, and the Metro, Seattle King County Metro. And they were there to hear our concerns and answer our questions. And one of the things that came up was that the parking across or on Wildwood Place from Fauntleroy was a problem that caused a fatality on June 15th. And they said from the get-go, after they were all done with their introductions and hearing a lot of people express their grief over the death, that they had already decided to eliminate that parking on that part of the street between Fauntleroy and 47th. They got a lot of comments congratulating them on that decision and asking them to extend it up Wildwood in order to continue to protect bike lanes. And today, they put up no parking signs from Fauntleroy all the way up to 46th Avenue Southwest. So I just wanted to shout out to the FCA for having organized this and gotten all those elected and appointed officials who were doing this and making decisions to come together with the residents and the activists who were so concerned about this and get some immediate action. I was completely astounded because I live across the street. The fatality occurred at the end of my driveway. So I was very, very interested in seeing this problem resolved. And today I was astounded and pleased to see that it was, as far as I was concerned, solved for this particular stretch of street. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Oh, Teresa, thank you so much for that information. Mary D was very much loved here on Vashon, and it's been a hard time. I'm so glad to hear that.
Kenny, go ahead.
Got a quick thing to share, and that is King County Elections will be hiring hundreds of short-term staff to help with the next election. Over the next month, those jobs will be posted. I just dropped the link. You can go to that link, click the little button next to elections, and save that search so that you get a push email when jobs are posted. So we're talking people who pick up ballots, people who are working in the building, reviewing ballots, people who are doing customer service, phone bank, hundreds of jobs. So if anybody wants to get very involved in the next election, that's the way to do it. Get paid for it, union job. Julie Wise sang the praises of it when she visited us earlier this year. I'd highly recommend y'all check it out.
Cool. Thanks, Kenny. Anyone else with any announcements? Anyone else? All right. Well, that meeting went faster than I expected. Thank you all for making it easy. And appreciate you all spending your Wednesday evening with us. And I hope to see you all soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.